Hello, my dear friend. Welcome to the session of learning. Today, we will know about the industrial establishments and what are the regulatory permissions required for the industries. It is a big challenge for an entrepreneur to establish a manufacturing business, that is, a new manufacturing business. Setting up a new industry requires many approvals from the government authorities. One of the major requirements is to obtain consent to establish and consent to operate from the state pollution control boards of the respective states. Then new units are under compulsion to obtain consent under Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 and the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, even before starting subsequent production. It is very essential. In case the unit is covered under Hazardous and Other Wastes Management and Transport Movement Rules 2016, E-Waste Management Rules 2016, Plastic Waste Management Rules 2016, and Biomedical Waste Management Rules 2016. It shall simultaneously apply for grant of consent under Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 and Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. These are the two very mandatory requirements that has to be obtained. Now we will know types of consent. Under the provision of Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 and the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, any industry, operation or process or an extension or addition thereto which is likely to discharge sewage or trade effluent into the environment or likely to emit any air pollution into the atmosphere will have to obtain the consent. Now we will know what are the two types of the consents. That is, number one is consent to establish and second is consent to operate. Now what is consent to establish? This consent is required to be obtained before establishing any industry, plant or process. The consent to establish is the primary clearance. Before getting this permission, no industry is permitted to establish. That is, it is obtained prior to establishing any industry, any process, or any plant. Second is consent to operate. Once the industry, plant, or process, whatever may be, being established according to the mandatory pollution control systems, the units are required to obtain consent to operate. That is, permission for operating the plant, for running the plant. It is mandatory requirement. Now we will try to know the procedure to obtain consent. How we can get consent. All the industrial sectors projects have been categorized under red or orange, green and white categories based upon their pollution potential and the range of the pollution index for the purpose of consent management under Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 and Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. The process for obtaining consent to establish and to operate involves making an application to the respective State Pollution Control Board along with the required documents and scrutiny fees using online portal of the State Pollution Control Board, that is Online Consent Management and Monitoring System. This is the portal through which we or any industry can apply for consent to establish and consent to operate. Now, it is followed by physical scrutiny of the location and assessment of the environmental management system planned to meet with the mandatory requirement prescribed by the State Pollution Control Board. Now, we will know what are the documents required for these two consents. While every state has its specific requirement The following set of documents are usually required across every state for seeking consent under Water Act 1974 and Air Act 1981. Now first, the consent to establish. The documents required for consent to establish are site plan, location plan of the industry, where the industry will be established. So site plan or location plan has to be submitted along with the application. Second is detailed project report. This project report will include the detail of raw material, product to be manufactured, the capital cost of the unit, that is of the land, building and plant machinery, and then water balance, source of water and its required quantity. What quantity of water will be required for the process? All these are to be included in project report, and project report is to be submitted along with the application. Third is land documents. Land documents such as registration deed or rent deed or lease deed. This is the required document. That is, it will give the proof that you own the land, may be registered or rented. Details of water pollution control or air pollution control instruments. What are the instruments you are going to install for controlling the air, water pollution and air pollution? The detail has to be submitted along with the application. And last one is MOA, that is partnership deed. If you are wanting to establish the industry along with the partners, then partnership deed has to be submitted. These are the mandatory documents which are required to be submitted along with the application of consent to establish. Now we will know what are the documents required for consent to operate. Consent to operate means permission for operation of the unit, running of the unit. What are these permissions? Now, copy of the last consent issued. If your plant, your unit, your industry is established and you have obtained consent to operate once, or maybe it may be the case of renewal, then copy of the last consent is required. And if unit is new one, that is, you have obtained the consent to establish and completed the commissioning of the unit, then you are required to submit the copy of consent to establish. Second is layout plan, showing the details of all manufacturing processes. Third is latest analysis report of solid waste, effluent, hazardous waste and fuel gases. What are the fuel gases which will be required for operating the industry? Then copy of the balance sheet duly attested by CA or CA certificate is to be submitted. After that, detail of the land in case of the effluent is discharged on land for percolation. And then occupation certificate issued by town or country planning department in case of the building and construction project, area development projects. All these are required to be submitted for obtaining consent to operate. Now, validity and renewal of consent. Generally, consent to establish is one-time activity. The State Pollution Control Board issues it for 3 to 5 years. In case the project proponent required an extension of the period, the entrepreneur can apply for an extension on the basis of the requirements. Why your unit has not been completed in scheduled time frame, then you have to apply for the extension for giving the genuine requirements, genuine cause, genuine reasons for this. Now, consent to operate remains valid for 5 years, 10 years or 15 years. And for the red category, orange category and green category of industries respectively. The industry project proponent intending for renewal of consent to operate shall apply through OCMMS, that is Online Consent Management and Monitoring System. This is the portal, and this has to be applied before the expiry of the period of the previous consent to operate permitted by the State Pollution Control Board. That is, if the period is 3 months, 2 months, then you have to submit application online for renewal. In some states, there is a provision of auto renewal, that is auto renewal of consents in case where there is no change in their raw materials, process, product, or increase in overall capital investment cost and machinery, production capacity and pollution load of the units. That is, all these remain same. Then there is the provision of auto renewal, and this is generally for 1 year. After that, you have to get a regular consent to operate. And the pollution load should be within the limit. It should not increase than the previous month. Then you can get consent to operate auto renewed. Now, exemption. The industrial units projects covered under the white category are exempted from the consent management for obtaining consent to establish and consent to operate under Water Act 1974 and Air Act 1981, and any other units not covered under red, orange and green category. Now, penalty. We will know about the penalty. If any industry, plant or project operates without obtaining consent, the entrepreneur shall be liable for imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 months, or with a fine which may extend to 10,000 rupees, or with both. So, consent to establish and consent to operate are mandatory requirements, and no industry can be established before obtaining these two permissions from the State Pollution Control Boards. So all the industries, all the units, all the processes hereby try to know the mandatory documents and mandatory requirements for obtaining the consent to establish and consent to operate. And then it is very easy to obtain these two permissions. Thank you.